In exactly the same way that the Holy Prophet ﷺ knew that what God is telling me is the truth. He never stopped preaching. And in the same way, we won't stop preaching.
It's against the teaching of Islam to force anyone into belief, which is la ikraha fi din. There's no compulsion in matters of faith.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final episode of Face to Face in 2017. 8 weeks ago, roughly 8 weeks ago, we started this journey and we came up with this program for the benefit of the viewers at home, trying to educate you, trying to educate everyone actually, and not just give only the Khuddam here a platform to speak. But the main reason why we started this journey was to elaborate and to make clear and to make sure that everyone out there who's watching this program is aware of the Ilm al-Kalam of the Jamaat Ahmadiyya, and also what are some of the answers that we can give to so many allegations that are raised against Islam, that are raised against religion in general, and that are raised against the Ahmadiyya Muslim community all across the globe. So we hope and we pray that along these 8 weeks we could somehow a little bit educate you, and if not, you can still watch the episodes online. As I mentioned, today is the final episode of Face to Face. 4 contestants, 4 Khuddam that are actually spread over 4 continents all across the globe will be joining us for their final answers that they will give to the scenario that we gave them today. And as always, before we start the program, a few pointers, a few things that we need to clarify. The views and the expressions and the ideas and the answers that the contestants are giving in this program are not necessarily and entirely the viewpoint or the official viewpoint of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. These are their personal answers and these are their personal opinions. In the past episodes, you had the opportunity to vote for 2 contestants. In today's final episode, we unfortunately have to vote for 1 because there's only 1 winner, and that's why you will have the opportunity to vote for 1 of the Khuddam who are taking part in today's program. As far as the prize is concerned, we announced that in the first program and throughout those 8 weeks as well, that the winner will have the chance, the opportunity to host a show here on MTA International. As far as the scenario is concerned, in today's program, you're walking down a street here in London and some random person comes up to you and very mockingly that person says, when are you bringing the Sharia law to this country? So that was the scenario that we gave our Khuddam, and we're going to watch their videos. 3 minutes were given to them, and let's see what they have sent us. For you out there, if you are on social media, if you want to get in contact with us over Twitter, you can do so at face2face _MTA, and we've been receiving actually some lovely tweets from all across the globe, and we'll try to read them out through the program as well. Our first contestant for actually, before we go to Taslim Sahib from New Zealand, let me introduce you to the respected panel of judges with us over the past 7 weeks, and today is the 8th program. I will start to my very far right, Amr Safi Sahib, who is the editor of the Review of Religions magazine. Then to his right we have Mohammed Zahid Sahib, who is a teacher in Jami Ahmadiyya UK, and to his right Abdul Qudus Arif Sahib, who is a member of the National Amla of the Majlis Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya here in the UK. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode, final episode actually. So we're going to go to Taslim Ahmed Sahib from New Zealand. He is our first contestant, and Taslim Sahib is with us on the line as well. Taslim, assalamu alaikum and welcome to the finale.
Wa alaikum assalam.
We have Christmas holidays here in the UK currently. I'm guessing that's the same in New Zealand as well. Did you go anywhere?
Actually, I'm here in the UK right now. I'm visiting family. I'm enjoying the climate here. But otherwise, yes, it is the holidays in New Zealand as well.
What do you mean by enjoying the climate here?
Oh, it's brilliant climate here. Makes a nice change.
All right. So Taslim, you made it to the finale. Congratulations for that, first of all. What was your motivating factors? I mean, what is it that kept you going? What is it that inspired you or gave you the ideas for all of the answers that you gave us?
Alhamdulillah, my family has been very supportive throughout the entire course of the competition. And as well as that, all my friends from New Zealand, our local Murabbi Saab, Maulana Mustamshir Kamar Saab, Sadr Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya New Zealand as well, and all my other friends and family as well. They've been really supportive throughout the entire competition, and they've really kept me going with that.
All right. So today's scenario, we're going to go to your video first, and then, as always, the judges will ask you a few questions, and maybe if I have one, I'll ask you that as well. So let's go to your video. This is Taslim Ahmed Sahib from New Zealand answering today's scenario. You're walking down a street in London when a person suddenly approaches you and mockingly says, "When are you bringing the Sharia law to the country?"
It might surprise you to know that Sharia law has been implemented in our country for quite a long time. Sharia law is nothing more than a set of rules based on human nature, the teachings of the Quran and the practices of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Muslims are taught, as part of Sharia law, to follow the laws of the country in which they live. The Holy Prophet Muhammad said that loyalty to one's nation is part of faith, and expanding on this, the fourth caliph of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad, said that as long as you're free to practice your own religion in your country, then Sharia law is already being practiced. If the government's laws are based on absolute justice and the implementation of good morals, then the Sharia law is already there. We see that these days we enjoy freedom of religion and expression in our country, and under the law we're all equal, regardless of race, gender or rank. We have laws to protect the weak, look after the sick and help those in need, and we even have laws to protect animals. One of Prophet Muhammad's companions narrated that once he took 2 chicks from a bird and it became quite distressed. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he realized this, told him to put the birds back to relieve the mother's anguish. So you see, we're already following Sharia law, although perhaps our country's laws don't go as far as to protect the animal's feelings. If you want an example of how Sharia law is implemented in an Islamic society, then look at how the founder of Islam dealt with the followers of different religions under his leadership in the town of Medina. The local population consisted of Christians, Jews, pagans and Muslims, and whenever a matter came to the Prophet for resolution, he would always ask whether the claimants wanted the issue to be resolved with the Muslim laws, the Jewish laws, or their own religious laws, or just by secular arbitration. No one was forced to follow the Islamic law, because that would count as coercion, and the Holy Quran says in chapter 2 verse 257 that there is no compulsion in matters of faith, and as Sharia is a matter of faith, no one can force you to adhere to it, as that would be in contradiction with the Quranic teachings. So Sharia gives both you and me freedom to practice our ways and traditions as we enjoy here in our country. It's an example of Sharia in action. Now, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is very vocal in spreading peace and removing misconceptions all over the world through its True Islam campaign. One of the major points made is that the mosque and the state should be separated. The Holy Quran doesn't endorse a specific form of government, but instead requires that whatever form is used, absolute justice is used to oversee it. It's stated in the Holy Quran in chapter 4 verse 59, "Verily, God commands you to make over the trust to those entitled to them, and that when you govern between men, you judge with justice." True Islam, therefore, recognizes that it's justice, not religion, that is the determinative factor when governing society. So you see, we've enjoyed living under Sharia law all along. We just didn't take the time to see it until now.
Alright, that was Taslim Ahmed Sahib from New Zealand. Mohammed Sahib, I will start with you. You will have the first question and Taslim will have 60 seconds after you have finished your question and he has started to answer it.
Jazakallah Raza Sahib. It's the third time we are listening to him. We watched his response. And as before, Taslim Sahib, you have done very well, mashallah. Although I could not understand the relation of the between the scenario which was given and the last part of your answer, where you were telling that Islam has actually separated the mosque and the state. But anyhow, my question today to you is, for which you'll have 60 seconds to answer, is that you've explained all the good aspects of Sharia, but at the same time, we find that Sharia suggests some very harsh punishments for misdemeanors, such as chopping off the hands for theft. So how does your account reconcile with these harsh punishments which Sharia has prescribed?
The fact is that the laws are in place to protect the innocent people of the society. Khalifa Rabi has said this in a question and answer session, that as soon as the laws as soon as they're not capable of doing that, then they become useless as laws. Now, if there's a criminal who's allowed to go free without having been punished, then he is, in fact, a danger to the society. And the fact that these harsh punishments sometimes have to be used as a last resort in case of serious crimes. They also have the function of acting as a deterrent. So the crime rate will be lowered. But these harsh punishments are sometimes, unfortunately, necessary for this. There are, of course, it's an exceptional circumstance punishment.
How was the 60 seconds, Mohammed Saab?
I think he did well when he explained that when a strong punishment is prescribed, it is basically, it works as a strong deterrent to a crime. But probably he needed to explain it in a bit more detail, and he should have told us basically that it is an extreme punishment. For example, I mentioned chopping off the hands for theft. It is an extreme punishment, but it is not given to ordinary robber. I understand that sometimes in like some Muslim countries, this punishment was given to people who did not deserve it at all. For example, I was reading before coming here that an 8-year boy, he stole a piece of bread or something only because he was hungry, and his hand was chopped off. Such a punishment to an 8-year boy who is hungry, this is extremely wrong. This is basically not according to the purpose and objective of the punishment which is prescribed in Islam. It's an extreme punishment, and it can only be given to like a person who is persistent in his crime, who does not actually stop this bad habit. And in the first place, this will only be given in a circumstance where all his needs are met by the Islamic State, which is basically a welfare state, not the Islamic State which is nowadays in the news, but the proper Islamic State where it is a welfare state and all the needs of the people who live under them are met. So there, as an extreme measure, as a strong deterrent for someone who is a persistent, robber, such a punishment can be given.
Habitual thieves,
habitual thieves. Yeah. And then it works as a strong deterrent. It is not for, as I mentioned.
To add on to what Momin Saab has said, this is a very important point, and Taslim Saab spoke about Khalifa Rabi. Khalifa Rabi has also mentioned something very interesting, and he said that the laws in Islam were first revealed to benefit people. The punitive laws, which were the punishments, actually came at a much later stage. At the moment, what people see in the media and what many so-called Muslim scholars are promoting is that the Sharia is only there for punishments. No. The Sharia is there to first benefit people, and this was practiced to the greatest degree by the Holy Prophet ﷺ, through suffering, through patience, through great endeavor and love and compassion. He provided benefit to the people. He provided for their needs. He provided for their requirements. Yeah. Only once you provide for their minimum guarantees, for their rights and their welfare, can you even begin to talk about punishment in an Islamic Sharia. So that's a very important point, that the laws to benefit came first. The punitive laws came at a much later stage.
All right. Jazakumullah, Jazakumullah. Taslim, hopefully you will take some of that information with you. It doesn't matter if you win or not or how far you get, but these are the things probably, I'm guessing that's what the intention of the judges are, and also for the viewers at home, that we come across these things on a daily basis, unfortunately. Taslim, Jazakallah to you, and we'll see you at the end of the program, inshallah. Moving on, our second contestant with us today, our second khadim, Kashif Mahmood Tahir Sahib from Pakistan. I believe he's in a different place today, not in Pakistan. Kashif Sahib, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the finale.
Thank you.
Tell us, where are you at the moment?
I am in Qadian.
MashaAllah. Well, you are one of the lucky ones who is fortunate enough to be in that holy place. Tell us, Jalsa Qadian, how was that experience? First time there?
No, it's actually my fifth time, yeah. And as always, it's been amazing. It's been spiritually awakening, and it's been wonderful.
Great. Well, Jazakallah for joining us today. We're going to go to your video and then the same procedure as in the last week's program. This is Kashif Mahmood Tahir Sahib and his reply. Kashif Sahib is from Pakistan.
What do you mean when? Sharia law is already here, my friend. You do know what Sharia law is. It's basically the teaching of Islam, most of which are a set of moral values which anyone can follow to become a better person. It's the law that teaches me not to lie, not to steal, not to harm any other human being, not to harm any animal for that matter. It's the law that teaches me that I should always pay my debts, I should always keep my promises, I should care for the ill, I should feed the poor, and I should be a kind, compassionate human being. It's the law that teaches me that all men are created equal, and that there cannot be any discrimination of caste, creed, or color. Is the law that teaches me that people from all religions should be free to practice their religion the way they want, and a pluralistic society should be created. It's the law that recognizes fundamental human rights. It's a law that was actually first to recognize equal rights for women, and in some cases more rights for women than men, because it was the Prophet of Islam who raised the concept of ladies first. It's the law that gives the message of peace and harmony and love, because Islam literally translates to peace. And we can see the practices of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat and how they're preaching and promoting their motto of love for all, hatred for none. It's the law that teaches me that all conflicts should be resolved peacefully, rather than resorting to violence and war. As we can see by the example of the Khalifa of Islam, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, how he is constantly spreading the message of peace through his letters to world leaders and his sermons to the world and people and his addresses to the parliaments. Especially as we saw during the Syrian conflict, when he sent out letters to world leaders telling them that you should come back to peaceful means of resolution rather than going towards hostility. And we believe that was one of the major reasons to avert a third world war. So Sharia law is basically a pathway that anyone can follow to become the best version of themselves. And anyone who is following these set of principles is basically following Sharia law. So I, to my best capabilities, am already following Sharia law. And aren't you too?
Cliffhanger right there. That was Kashif Mahmood Tahir Sahib from Pakistan. Well, as far as the argumentation is concerned, as far as the answer is concerned, that's your task. But what a background, wasn't it? That's a clear winner, I think, throughout the 8 weeks. Nobody can top that. We're pretty much agreeing on that one. Amr Sahib, your question for Kashif Sahib, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Kashif Sahib. So, Kashif Sahib, you spoke well, as you always have in the previous episodes. Very good, succinct response. So what I would like to ask you is that whilst your answer was very good, very positive and very refreshing perhaps for a non-Muslim to hear, a non-Muslim may be very worried about things they are seeing in the media which are linked with Sharia law. For example, penal or punitive measures, punishments, etc., or apparently harsh measures. That wasn't really covered in your talk. So if you could discuss one of those things, because we can't discuss all of them, does the Sharia suppress women and force them to cover up and prevent them from progressing in this way. So as soon as you start your answer, your 60 seconds will begin.
First of all, the requirement of parda in Islam is a religious requirement. And as we all know, it's an established principle of Islam that there is no compulsion in religion. So whoever covers basically does so willfully, because they understand the value, they understand the concept given by Islam behind the wisdom behind parda, and the actual essence, the covering up part, is basically just a physical representation of it. The essence is to avert from distasteful desires and other means of swaying from the path of righteousness. So whoever does so cannot be oppressed, because they're doing the act of parda, of covering up, willfully.
All right.
So pretty decent attempt, Jazakallah. I think just very briefly I would add a completely different point of view, which is there is a religious argument, obviously. Of course, they are not suppressed. They do have their free will, and we've covered that in previous episodes. But one thing Hazur has mentioned a few times is actually there's a human right aspect as well, which is a secular aspect. So, for example, we see in the winter here many women completely covering up to the extent that it's almost like they're doing parda. No one has an issue with that, yet they will have an issue with Muslim women covering themselves up. So he has already covered the part about it being of free will, but the aspect of actually covering up, it's actually it's a question of individual human rights and whether we should be allowed to dress as we please. So that's also one way to possibly tackle this.
Okay, good to say.
Yeah, mashallah, was a good attempt. I personally felt that out of the three that I've heard Qashif Sahib speak before, I felt that the other two were more stronger for him. And hence he's in the final. But overall, it was very decent, and like you said, you can't beat that background. I mean, you know, that's amazing. He's in a place where we all wish to be right now. Yeah. So good job to him. Again, but I echo what Amir Bhai was saying also, that it was very positive, and I think the scenario was meant to tackle the issues that people have with regards to Sharia law, and really pinpoint those aspects that are considered to be harsh and negative in Islam.
Mumsab, you get the 45 seconds this time.
No, I think everyone has spoken about it, that he only mentioned the positive sides of Sharia, and he actually told us that Sharia is basically those sets of do's and don'ts which seek to reform the society in different ways. He's very true when he says that. But probably the scenario actually demanded him to address and tackle the negative aspects of it, at least a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So had he done that, he would have been like in a better...
All right. Well, Qashif Sahib, Jazakallah to you as well, and we'll speak to you at the end of the program, inshallah. Moving on, we're coming back to the UK here. Dr. Omar Nasab is with us on the line. He's from the UK, a junior doctor. Actually, well, that's not Dr. Omar Nasab. There's Dr. Omar Nasab. Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Saab, all of these things, as far as Sharia law is concerned, you've heard the judges ask the previous two contestants a few questions. What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about Sharia law here in the UK specifically?
I think fundamentally it's the idea that Muslims are trying to impose a certain way of life on others. It may be true that a minority of Muslims are looking to do this, but I think the majority of Muslims aren't looking to do this. Certainly the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is not looking to do this, because this finds no basis in the teachings of Islam. The Holy Prophet ﷺ never ever tried to impose the teachings of Islam onto people, and the Holy Quran forbids it when it says La ikraha fid din. So I think that's the fear.
Do you guys get holidays, by the way, as well?
I got a bank holiday, so yeah, that's about it.
All right, we're going to go to Dr. Umar Nasser Saab's video here from the UK, and then we'll be back after that. Dr. Umar Nasser from the UK.
Peace be upon you, sir. Now, this may surprise you, but I've been practicing what you'd call Sharia law in this very country all my life. So, for instance, whenever I pray, that's me practicing the Sharia. Whenever I help my parents or serve my local community or give to charity, that's me practicing the Sharia. Sharia actually just signifies the teachings of Islam. So all of those things that I just said are things that I can do while practicing the Sharia, the teachings of Islam, in this country without any kind of difficulty. And I've been doing that all my life. So you don't have to worry. I'm not trying to, and we Muslims, we're not trying to impose anything on anyone else if we're following the teachings of Islam. Now I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, well, that's all very good. You can pray to God as much as you want. But what about a place like Saudi Arabia? Don't you want to change things to be like Saudi Arabia, where you have a theocracy that denies women their basic human rights, that stops freedom of religion and freedom of speech? Well, my answer to that would be basically no. I don't want things to be like that because I don't think that Saudi Arabia are particularly Islamic in any way. See, we need to separate the teachings of Islam and the actions of modern Muslim governments because these two things are not the same. So, for instance, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a champion of women's rights. He liberated the women of Arabia and throughout the Islamic world. And Saudi Arabia have gone a step backwards. The Quran very clearly states in chapter 2, verse 229, that women and men have rights over each other in equity. So it establishes their civic and spiritual rights as being equal. With regards to apostasy laws, these have absolutely no basis in Islam, no basis in the Quran. In fact, I challenge anyone to bring a single verse that prescribes any kind of worldly punishment of someone who leaves the faith. The Quran very clearly says in chapter 88, verses 22 to 23, that you're not allowed to compel anyone to believe or not to believe. Okay? So, teachings of Muslim governments are one thing, the teachings of Islam quite the other. Now, the proof of this is in the practice of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Because if we want to find out what Islam is, we need to look at his character. We need to see him, because he was the embodiment of Islam. Now, when he was elected as the political leader of Medina, he was elected as the leader of three peoples: the Muslims, the pagans, and the Jews. And what he said was actually that he's going to rule in a way that allows each of them their self-determination. So he judged the Muslims by the Muslim law, he judged the Jews by the Jewish law, and he judged the pagans by the common or traditional law. So he didn't impose Islamic teachings on anyone. And that's actually the essence of what you'd call Islamic governance, which is what you're afraid of when you say Sharia law. The essence of Islamic governance is actually giving people their due rights and not imposing religion on them. Because the Quran very clearly says in chapter 2, verse 257, that there is no compulsion in religious matters. And briefly I'd say at the end that if you want to see a model of Islam in this day and age, I'd welcome you and I'd invite you to have a look at the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. This is a community that has spiritual leadership and caliphate of Mirza Masroor Ahmad, who has no political aspirations, who leads a worldwide community of believers, who simply invite people to have a look at their faith, and if they don't want to join it, then they don't have to. And that is our way, and that is the way of Islam. Thank you very much.
Well, that was Dr. Umar Nasser Qudus Sahib. He will have the honor of asking him that question for 60 seconds, please.
Jazakallah, Dr. Sahib is a very, very good entry and very well covered as well, I may say. You spoke about Sharia was never imposed and you gave the practice of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and his example. But some may argue that the Holy Prophet of Islam sanctioned the deaths of certain individuals within that society. It was never imposed. They weren't forced into being Muslims. But how can we reconcile these two different actions and practices of the Prophet?
Well, I think in order to answer that, firstly, I'd need a bit more specifics. If someone comes up to me and says, what about this or that, then I need to look into the specific case. But the idea that because you sanction the death of individuals within your state, you're somehow imposing religious teaching is obviously doesn't follow. There's no logical progression there. Theresa May sanctions the punishment of various peoples within the British state. That doesn't make her a religious leader. In fact, the key thing is whether you do it according to an accepted law, which is agreed upon by the citizens of your state. And Holy Prophet ﷺ, what he did is he had the various groups in Medina to sign up to the Charter of Medina, which was in many ways the first true constitution of a city-state, in which they agreed upon certain terms. All of the groups did, their heads and their representatives did. Now, within that, there was the provision that if they break some of those laws, then they will be penalized. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ, in accordance with the requirements of justice, carried that out while being merciful at certain times as well.
So very well covered, I may say again. So yeah, well done. It was very well answered.
Moment up.
I think his entry was very good, and the answer which he has given to Qudus Sahib's question was equally good, spot on. And we should always remember, yes, that the death of those people, which was sanctioned by the Holy Prophet ﷺ, they had committed high treason, basically, at a time when the situation in Medina was very volatile. It was basically wartime.
Yeah.
And they had committed like treason, and they conspired with the army of Meccans, which were there basically. So we can always mention these things.
It's always a big misconception. One of the things that, keeping that religious and the state side separate, and that's what a lot of people also kind of mix together, isn't it? Especially when it comes to the time of the Holy Prophet.
Yes, I think, as I mentioned before, the Holy Prophet ﷺ sought to elevate the moral standard of the people first. He sought to make them better people. He sought to elevate their standards to such a degree that they were already law-abiding people. They were people who were following the moral code and also following the law. It was only once he went through this period of training with patience, with effort and with suffering, that then those laws, or punitive laws, were introduced. And even once they were introduced, there were strict conditions that were enacted. For example, if you take zina or adultery mentioned in the Quran, it's mentioned that the punishment is flogging, but it's mentioned that you have to have 4 witnesses. Now this is something mentioned by Khalifa Rabi, that of course to have 4 witnesses to an act of adultery is something that is going to be very rare, or very remote possibility that punishment is ever going to be enacted. So this also shows that there is a check and balance. While the punishment may seem severe, the actual implementation of that punishment has to also go through certain hurdles which are very difficult to go through, and it's only then that it will be enacted.
All right. Jazakumullah. Dr. Saab, we will come back to you at the end of the program. You're going to stay with us, and if you have Twitter, go on Twitter in the meantime. That's for you at home as well. If you are on Twitter, go to @Face2Face_MTA. Tweet to us. Let us know where you're watching it from. There's a few tweets that we've been receiving over the past few days, and especially after the last week's episode. Anna Mahmood has tweeted, that was last week, cannot wait for today's Face2Face on Muslim TV at 7 p.m. Hello World has MTA International Face2Face getting ready to vote. Face2Face, mashallah, great show. Our whole family loves it. That was from Fawzia. And Anna Mahmood has tweeted, yet another excellent episode. Cannot wait for the final. Well done to the finalists and good luck. Kiwanuka Abdul Bada has tweeted, great time with this program. Wassalam, dear brother. Jazakumullah to all of you. And this has become a really, truly international show because of the tweets, because of the contestants. And to top it off and to, complete it, the round across the globe, we are going to go to lovely Canada. Akbar Ali Sahib is with us on Skype as well. Akbar, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the finale.
Welcome, Salam.
Canada is famous and very well known to be very friendly, the peaceful people, and even politically they try to stay away from the negative press. But when it comes to this specific topic, is that something that Canadians are afraid of, or they're worried about?
I think quite naturally, when we go out and do tabligh in downtown and central parts of the city, people do, at the end of the day, it's a topic that's magnified and propelled in the media quite a bit. So naturally, there are concerns that come about in people's minds, and whenever we are out in tabligh, people do express them.
Okay, all right. So, which way is your fan club hiding, by the way?
Sorry, which way is, sorry?
Your fan club, where is your fan club hiding at the moment?
My fan club?
Yes, your fan club.
Oh, I don't know. Which fan club are you talking about?
It was just a... Akbar Sahib, we're going to go to your video, then we'll be back after that. This is Akbar Ali from Canada.
What Sharia do you speak of? The one so-called Islamic countries are using to deprive people of their fundamental human rights? If so, I hope it never does. Or are you speaking of the true Sharia endorsed by the Holy Quran and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him? The Sharia which champions the ever-cherished freedoms of this day and age, like freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, and stands up for the fundamental rights of all humans. If you are speaking of this latter version of Sharia, then let me say that this already exists here in Britain. Just take a look at the European Convention of Human Rights of 1953 and tell me how many of these freedoms were actually presented by the Quran 1,000 years prior to it.
In fact, a well-known law academic by the name of John Makdisi says that Islamic law likely played a pivotal role in formulating what we see today as, English common law. But let's first understand what Sharia really is. In Arabic, the word Sharia inherently means a clear path, a path which is manifest and free of falsehood. It's not, a political constitution, but rather a path which is meant to guide Muslims on how to socially, morally, and spiritually live. Now, that being said, I ask you, what need is there for me to bring any political law when the laws of this great land already grant me the ability to follow my faith, and they provide, freedoms and rights that everyone requires or society requires to flourish? And those who believe that the ultimate mission of Sharia is to establish some sort of Islamic rule must reconcile a fallacy, because the Quran clearly states that for you is your religion, for me is my religion. Now imagine, if we were to actually legislate the Quran into some form of political law, then we would diametrically oppose these Quranic principles, because the non-Muslims would also have to abide by and they would be imposed by these Quranic injunctions, when in fact religion teaches that there is no compulsion in deen. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who brought the religion and was democratically elected as the leader of Medina, passed judgment on Jews and Christians according to their own law. Now, interestingly enough, academics at the George Washington University compiled a list of countries which represent true Islamic values, and not a single Islamic country was even in the top 30. Now, what does this show us? It shows us that, these so-called Islamic countries which masquerade under the guise of Sharia are based on the same backward principles that Sharia exists to eradicate. Now, Sharia, it's beautiful because it means that I have to fulfill my rights to you as my fellow man. It means I serve you, even when it means sacrificing my own comfort to do so. Sharia is becoming, the most beautiful human being I can be every day. So when am I bringing this Sharia to our country? Every single day. But I will never force it on anyone.
All right. That was Akbar Ali Sahib from Canada. Amr Sab, please.
Akbar Ali Sahib, Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, salam.
Alhamdulillah, I thought you did quite a good job, and I like the way that you brought in various research and citations. So I thought that was quite good. Well done. My question is, that all sounds very good. A non-Muslim may respond or follow up to your response by saying, why is it that we seem to see the opposite of what the theory that you have provided? Why does it seem like we see the opposite in many of the Muslim countries in the world? And so how can we reconcile that? Where can we find the reality of what the theory of which you are describing? So your 60 seconds will begin once you start answering.
No, that's actually a very valid question, because at the end of the day, Islam claims that it's a perfect law with universal teachings, and thus if it really is something that when implemented should create an ideal society, then why is it not happening, right? But what we have to understand is that, and this is something that Hazrat Khalifa al-Masih, the Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community as well, he has been very vocal about, is that there's certain matters when it comes to secular affairs and religious affairs that they just simply can't you can't mix them together. And the separation of state and religion is something that's fundamental. And whenever we look back in history, take a glance at the time of the Khulafa Rashidin, when they had implemented whatever the Islamic guidelines for the society, it was very different than we see nowadays, where nowadays the countries are overlooking fundamental aspects of Sharia, like freedom of expression for minorities and whatnot.
Amr, please tell me that was a good answer.
It was a decent response. I would say that we would have to go back to the fundamental point that's been mentioned in some of the previous episodes, that essentially it does come down to the fact that this was a prediction of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, that there would be a time in the latter days when the Muslims, to summarize it, would deviate from their faith. They would pay lip service to the Holy Quran. The Muslim scholars at the time would be some of the worst people. So if that is the case, it's no wonder that many people are not following the true Sharia. And it would be at such a time that the promised Messiah would come, and he would then revive the faith and bring back the true teachings. And this is why the Holy Prophet ﷺ has laid so much emphasis that when the Mahdi comes, even if you have to walk across icebound glaciers, go convey my salam and accept him. So I do feel, and this is something I've tested many times with non-Muslims, you have to tell them this fundamental point, that there is a difference. We are following not a different system, but a system which is to revive that faith, which is the promised Messiah, peace be upon him. So this is very fundamental to mention.
Yeah, mashallah, it was a very good response. I think the 60-second challenge was well dealt with as well. I think he was the only contestant that actually spoke to us with regards to the meaning of Sharia, the Arabic meaning of being a clear path. And one thing, Raza, we need to get very clear about is that Sharia law is any divine law. So the Sharia that was given to Hazrat Musa والسلام, was a divine law given to that Bani Israel, the children of Israel. Sharia was also given to Hazrat Noah والسلام, Hazrat Adam والسلام. And then the perfection of Sharia comes in the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, because he was the perfect and the seal of the prophets. So it's something that's not only to do with Islam, but if we look at Sharia in its totality, it's from time immemorial, since the time of Prophet Adam, and you find the final and perfect version today.
Exactly. That's what exactly Akbar Sahib mentioned, a path to life-giving water. Mohammed Sahib.
Yes, Raza Sahib, his response was, mashallah, excellent. In the entry which he submitted, and the 60-second response which he gave to Amir Sahib's question, that was also spot on. And Qudus Sahib is very right to actually point out that he's the only contestant who mentioned the literal meaning of Shiratun or Shariatun, which means a clear and manifest path. As a term, when we use Sharia, it actually means a clear path that leads to God Almighty, or that leads to the nearness of God. And basically, Sharia seeks to reform people through bringing different obligations and prohibitions. And this is the basic principle behind Sharia. And the general misconceptions regarding Sharia in people's minds, they are basically based upon the punitive side of Sharia or the penal code of Sharia. That is only one aspect of a multifaceted institution. They can also be removed. And he talked well, I think.
It's surprising when they find out that it's actually not just about chopping off hands and etc., all of these things, what their concept of Sharia law is.
As they pronounce it.
As they pronounce it, some of them. We're going to open up the voting lines in just a bit. Go to www.mta.tv/face2face, and you will see a blue button where you can watch previous episodes, and then, of course, you can vote for the contestants today. Our Khuddam brothers who took part in the finale of the Face2Face competition today. We first saw Taslim Ahmed Sahib from New Zealand, and after that we had Kashif Mahmood Tahir Sahib from Pakistan, who was currently in Qadian at the moment. And then we came here to the UK, Dr. Umar Nasser. He submitted his video on number 3, and then you just saw Akbar Ali Sahib from Canada. Now, we're going to show a short video clip about the journey to the semis. You've been watching the journey to the semis from the first few episodes of the quarterfinals, and this is another kind of concise video where we're going to show you a few clips from all of the contestants that took part in the journey to the semis.
That was Taslim Ahmed from New Zealand. Qudus Sahib, initial thoughts?
Yeah, no, mashallah, Taslim Sahib, excellent response. I thought you were very eloquent, very confident. You made me feel comfortable as a person listening to your response.
Mashallah, I'm absolutely amazed at the way you were able to explain the concept of parda. And at such a young age, you seem to be very young actually, mashallah.
I really enjoyed the way you spoke to Taslim Sahib. You had a very approachable style, and you spoke confidently and convincingly.
I think he spoke with a lot of confidence, and he constructed some very good argument in his video, and his response later on to the question of Amir Sahib was also very good.
Yeah. All right.
So no doubt he's a strong contender.
Kashif Mahmood Tahir Sahib from Pakistan. Mohammed Sahib, how great was that reply?
I think it was a very good reply. He had a very calm and poised demeanor.
So I wanted to ask you, you're from Pakistan, but your accent sounds American. And as a positive point, I wanted to find out how come you have an American accent. It's actually a really good accent.
That was Kashif Mahmood Tahir Sahib from Pakistan.
Jazakallah Kashif Sahib, mashallah, you spoke very well, and you have actually given some very good arguments. And particularly I like the way you has actually extracted from the Holy Quran the verse and the inference that you have taken from that. That was very relevant, very pertinent, and I liked that.
Qudus Sahib, your initial reaction?
I loved the style. I thought it was very, very comfortable, and it seemed like he was speaking to his friend, and he came across very confident, conviction-wise, delivery-wise, argumentation-wise, on point.
I think it is indeed a near-perfect response. A good display of confidence.
Dr. Umar Nasir Sahib was a very strong candidate. He did very well, as he said.
I think he gave a very good answer because he quoted
in
it
his chair. That's how comfortable he was.
Yeah, apart from that, I think it was
if I could ask you,
answer.
please.
He quoted the correct verse from the Holy Quran, and he almost finished his answer in 60 seconds. So in both ways, he had actually dealt it very well.
Jazakallah. That was Akbar Ali Sahib from Canada.
Mashallah, Akbar Sahib, I'm quite impressed by the way you've constructed your arguments. And like Mohammed Sahib mentioned as well, the seamless flow between one argument to other, it just seemed like one unified approach.
That was Akbar Ali Sahib from Canada, and boy, I gotta say, I do not want to sit on your side of this table. So,
first of all, Akbar Sahib, can I just say it was a very good response. I loved many bits of the answers, but one in particular was about using the dating sites.
MashaAllah, Akbar Ali Sahib spoke very well, and the examples which he had actually given, they were very vivid, everyday examples, particularly like the example of the mirror.
All right, welcome back to the live proceedings here from the studio. That was just a recap, so you can see we're back here at the finale. You can see Qudus Sahib is wearing his tie with the dots, so we're back. That was a recap from the finalists who just joined us in today's program, and the comments that the judges had to make about them in the previous episodes. I know for sure that after each program we had a lot to talk about, and the responses that we got were phenomenal. And it started from the very, very first videos that people sent us for the qualifiers. So we're going to go back to that in just a bit. But again, the votes are out, the result is out, and the judges have voted, and so have you at home. Jazakumullah asnaza for your votes. We listened to Taslim Ahmed Sahib from New Zealand in today's program, his final remarks and his final video submission for today's scenario. After that, we had Kashif Mahmood Tahir Sahib from Pakistan. He also sent us his reply to the scenario that we gave him today. Dr. Umar Nasir from the UK had his video submission as well sent to us. And just right now, you listened to Akbar Ali Sahib from Canada. The result is out. We have a winner of the Face2Face 2017 competition. And the winner, ladies and gentlemen, for the Face2Face competition is Akbar Ali Sahib. Barakallahu lakum. And of course, congratulations to the other contestants as well. Unfortunately, there can only be one winner. That's the downside of these competitions. Akbar Ali Sahib, Mubarakul, congratulations from all of us here at MT International. How do you feel?
It's quite an honor because I've watched all the episodes, and the contestants, mashallah, they were very. There's a lot of good competition, especially like Dr. Umar Sahib. I actually really look up to him. I watch his Rational Religion channel. It's really an honor for me to even have come this far and to have had a chance to present at such a level like this. So jazakumullah to all the judges and everyone as well.
Well, jazakumullah for you taking part. Actually, we're going to have to ask you again, whose idea was it that you take part?
That's what it was. I just saw it on a WhatsApp group, and I decided, at first I was unsure if I'm going to do it due to exams, but from a couple of friends also were going to do it, so they pushed me as well, so we ended up doing it, and alhamdulillah, I guess just each round I was like, it's a very tough competition. We'll see. So only God's grace that I made it this far.
MashaAllah. Well, so you will have the opportunity to host a show on MTA International. Some of our team members will get in contact with you and they will guide you through the details very shortly, inshallah. Well, but make sure you take out those friends out for dinner, was their idea. All right?
Sounds good.
Jazakallah. All right. Moment Saab, 8 weeks have passed. Went by like this, wasn't it? But your summary, your recap of the past 8 weeks.
Brother Sahib, I'm really impressed by all the 4 contestants which we had today in the final. Like all 4 of them, they did very well. I must congratulate Akbar Ali Sahib as he is the winner of today's competition. It had to be one. But the other 3, they did very well as well. Umar Nasir Sahib, Kash Mahmood Sahib, and Taslim Sahib, they all did very well.
Okay.
And even in the semi-finals, if we remember, like our Nigerian brother, Hafiz Bello Sahib, and Sarfaraz Sahib from the UK, and Ataur Rauf Sahib from Pakistan, they all did very well. So I am very impressed, and I think the program has served its purpose, because we have so many new khuddam who are able to speak so well
and learning something. Definitely, that was also
issues.
The purpose of that program. Kashif Ali Sahib, Kashif Mahmood Sahib, sorry, with us from Qadian. Kashif Sahib, anything that you would like to say in 30 seconds? Sorry, I'm cutting it down even from 60.
Yeah, it's okay. Actually, when I first submitted it, the video, I didn't even think that I would make it to the live shows, and I'm in the finals, so I think that's more than an achievement for me.
All right. Well, Jazakumullah, thank you very much that you did, and hopefully, in case Face2Face comes back, we'll definitely love to hear from you and see from you again, inshallah. Jazakumullah to you as well. Taslim Sahib, who is here in London at the moment, we can go to you as well now. Your final remarks, your comments.
Alhamdulillah. It's been quite a learning journey from the beginning qualifying round to here. I've learned a lot, especially from about all the topics. It's a great honor to have made it to the finals, and Jazakallah to the judges as well.
There's still a long way ahead of you, and then of course there's so many things that you can learn from each other. And Dr. Umar Nasir Sahib, we're going to go to you as well. Jazakumullah, thank you very much. Thoroughly enjoyed all of your video submissions. Anything that you would like to say?
No, just Jazakallah for having this competition. I think it's been really beneficial. It has sort of invigorated people, and you get a lot of messages flying around talking about the show. So I think it's excited people. It's brought people forward to speak about Islam. So as I said, the purpose has been served, and I think the winner is very much a deserved winner. Jazakallah.
Well, Jazakumullah, Dr. Umar Nasir, Kashif Mahmood Tahir, and Taslim Sahib from New Zealand, and also to Akbar Ali Sahib, congratulations once again. Amr Sahib, what would you like Khuddam and the viewers at home, very briefly, to take away from the past 8 weeks?
When, inshallah, now our Khuddam go out on social media and promote the Ahmadiyya community and the true message of Islam, if they take into account these tips, and we've seen the improvement from show to show, so consult the writings of the Promised Messiah, peace be upon him, consult the writings of the Khudafa, base your answers around that, and that material is readily available through the books and literature online on Al-Islam, through videos, on MTA's YouTube channel, through the Review of Religions. So base all your answers around that and then put it into a local context.
Jazakumullah Sanza. Thank you very much to you as well, to the judges Amr Safri Sahib, Mohammad Zahid Sahib, and Abdul Qudus Arif Sahib. Jazakumullah for all of your time, for all of your effort, and for all of the very helpful tips that you gave to our contestants. From all of us here at MTA International, we would like to wish you a very blessed and happy New Year 2018. Remember us in your prayers as well, and all of the contestants that took part in this competition. Jazakumullah Ahsan al-Jaza. Up until next year, and we're going to take leave from you with a request of prayers, of course, for all of the team here at Face2Face and MTA International. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
In exactly the same way that the Holy Prophet ﷺ knew that what God is telling me is the truth. He never stopped preaching. And in the same way, we won't stop preaching.
It's against the teaching of Islam to force anyone into belief, which is la ikraha fi din. There's no compulsion in matters of faith.